picks pay out with Rock and Manooch on Fox Sports 910.
Scott, are you able to get around town in Las Vegas right now? I mean, is it still traffic crazy with some little car race going on? Or, I mean, when is that thing? Is it already happened? Did I miss it? I was out of the country. Did the Formula One thing already go through Vegas?
I think it's in November, but I can tell you all the natives are not happy, including myself. It's just a mess. I think I heard that a lot of the employees in the hotels on the Strip. Luckily, I don't have to go there if I don't want to. But the employees who have to, clock in and clock out on the Strip are actually filing some kind of suit for some kind of like compensation for what they've had to go through trying to get to work. I mean, it's a mess.
Jeez. All right. Well, then let's talk about football. We're good with football. Now,
Absolutely.
I don't know if you agree with this, Oregon and Washington. Some are saying that this could be one of the most important games in the history of this rivalry between these two teams. And, of course, this got Pac-12 title implications, Heisman implications, national playoff implications. I mean, this is arguably the biggest game of the season, I think you could probably argue. I'm so curious how you're handicapping this. Two undefeated teams. Please, where? I mean, this is the kind of game I almost don't want to bet because I just want to watch it for the pure excitement of how great it's probably going to be.
I know what you mean, man. It's like I do this for a living. There's certain games that I just wish I could just sit back and watch.
Yeah.
And just be a fan of college football. And I am involved in this game, so I will be rooting for a couple of things. The first thing I did was I played the under, and the second thing I did, which is kind of like counterintuitive to a lot of people out there, they thought the number should have been in the 70s, and I bet it under at 67.5. And I think the fact that the total is under 70 kind of tells you what the bookmakers are thinking about two great offenses, but facing, decent defenses. And then what I did yesterday is I laid the 3 with Washington. A lot of books have gone up to 3.5 now. And the reason I came to that is, listen, the Ducks, I'm saying this in all due respect to this Oregon team, but they have yet to face a decent defense. Washington's defensive numbers aren't elite, as you guys know, but they own the best defensive roster, athletes, quickness that Oregon will face by far to date. So I'm a bit of a contrarian. I mean, you look at who they played. They played Stanford, 130th against the pass, 123rd in total yards allowed. They played Colorado, 130th in total yards allowed, 129th passing yards allowed, 98th against the run. Hawaii, horrible against the run. Portland State doesn't even count. Texas Tech, 98th against the pass. So the dink and dunking, and I like Bo Nix, but the dink and dunk attack has worked with a whole lot of yards after catch, and I'm not so sure it's going to do it against this talented defense and roster. But Oregon, on the flip side, the reason I like the under is they're 5th against the pass, 6th in total yards allowed per game, excellent at stopping the run. The one thing that Washington can do, obviously, they're not a big running team, but they don't need to be. Michael Penix Jr., who might win the Heisman, Bo Nix might win the Heisman, but Washington's great through the air. And I think they get the job done here and win by a touchdown. I just think that Oregon's power ratings and numbers are just a tad inflated. And I look at the teams they played, and I'm like, boy, I just don't like that resume.
Scott, I think when you talk about the under, I was thinking over, but I think to your point, Oregon can slow the game down with their running game and Bo Nix to keep Penix and the Huskies off the field. That's the one saving grace with that situation. But I don't know, man. There could be 40 points scored in the fourth quarter when both these teams get lathered up and start airing it out.
40 points in each quarter.
Yeah, that's true.
I saw that number and I'm thinking, boy, it just feels like, the guys behind the counter are tempting people. And I don't believe in a lot of that trap situations and all that. But it feels like this number should be 71 and it's 67, So that's why I kind of leaned that way. That's not a big play for me, by the way, but it is a play. So if it does go down, it'll be unfortunate, but it won't kill me. But and I think Washington, I took Washington at 22-1 like a month and a half ago to win the national title. And I don't usually do that, but I thought I'm going to take a little flyer on them at 22-1.
All right, Scott, let's go to the second game. Number 10 USC at number 21 Notre Dame. Notre Dame, when I went to bed last night, was -3. It's now -2.5. Let me say that again. Number 10 USC at number 21 Notre Dame. And USC's getting points in South Bend?
Yeah. And if Notre Dame could have at least split the two losses, they'd even be a little bit higher. But, I played against Dame last week. One of my top plays of the week was Louisville. And, no one, I don't care who you are going to sweep 4 weeks in a row, Ohio State, Duke, Louisville, and USC. Georgia and Michigan, as much as I like those two teams, ought to be ashamed of themselves when you got the Irish playing that, those 4 teams over a 4-week period in those 2 middle games being on the road. But they lost 2 of their 3 assistants, or 2 of their top 3 assistants from last year's team, and not a lot of people have been talking about that. And the coaching staff has been average, I think, in some of these big games. As far as the players, good against the pass, not so hot against the run. Everybody's been knocking Caleb Williams. It's like they don't want this guy. It's like when a guy has too much success or a team and people want to knock him down. I know he had a rough game last week against Arizona. By the way, I like Arizona's coaching overall. I know they had a little, question mark over whether they should have gone for 2 at the end of regulation. But Caleb Williams, despite that, is a 71% passer. He has 22 touchdown passes. He has 1 pick in 166 attempts.
Yes.
And then Marshawn Lloyd, 500 yards rushing, nearly 8 yards per carry. Mike Rozier back in college football. What?
Yeah.
Anyway, Marshawn Lloyd is just tearing it up. I like USC. I took the field goal.
All right. Number 18, UCLA at number 15, Oregon State. UCLA, they're going to face their 3rd consecutive top 15 opponent. This is a big game for both these teams. Who you like in this one?
And I like how you set that up because I was thinking UCLA, and then I looked at that schedule and I thought, you know what? I'm going to have to not take UCLA in this game. And it is an interesting game. It's an interesting betting game because close to 60% of the tickets are on Oregon State, yet the number has dropped from 5 down to 3.5, which means sharper money or more respected money has been coming in on the Bruins. But you know what? I've been quite impressed with UCLA's defense this year. We can't always say that over the last few years. You can't run on UCLA. Obviously, their offense is not as explosive as they were when DTR was in Pasadena. But listen, Oregon State cost me a perfect college football sweep last week with my premium plays. I was 3-0. I ended up 3-1. So I can't back Oregon State either. But I think this one stays under the total, guys. My legit thought is this one stays below 54.
All right, the last one, the Cardinals at Rams. I know this one opened up at 4.5. Ever since the news that James Conner is out for the week, seems to keep climbing, Scott. So where's it currently at right now?
Mostly 7s. I got about 20 books on my line service on my screen in front of me. I see 2 6.5s and 7s everywhere else. So I suspect that it'll probably close everywhere at 7. Listen, they play hard, as we know, every week. We've talked about that. And Conner is just such a serious injury to this offense. But they're a candidate over the last couple of weeks now. We saw it a bit last week. They're a candidate for regression in that regression category because they have been playing over their skis or over their heads, playing so hard. I'm going to give you guys a quick metric, CPOE, and I'll explain what that is. It's called completion percentage over expectation. It's a metric that I like to use in capping a lot. And what it combines is air distance, distance from the sideline, target separation from the nearest defender, quarterback's distance from the closest pass rusher, the pass speed, and the time to throw. And Joshua Dobbs, it's been reported elsewhere, but Joshua Dobbs had the worst CPOA in week 5 of every quarterback in the NFL, and he threw 3 picks. I think they are regressing a bit. As far as the Rams, I don't know, but this is going to be a huge teaser play, guys. People are going to be teasing the Rams down to 1, the Eagles to a pick over the Jets, and the books are going to be sweating those 2 teaser plays. But listen, Cooper Kupp is back. Nakua, Atwell, Higbee, Kyron Williams out of the backfield. I just think with Arizona not able to get to the quarterback often enough and allowing 116 points in the last 4 games that the Rams get the job done, I do like them on teasers. I think they'll, you're basically talking about winning straight up at home. Put them on teasers, and I think you'll be happy.
He's Scott Spreitzer, DocSports.com. Scott, I want to throw you a little curveball here because we do these picks each week, and I'm curious, Wyoming and Air Force, if you looked at that, if that was a play for you this week.
I actually made a play on that, guys, and it's up to 11. 11 and a half, in fact. I just brought up my screen again. So they've gone from 10 to 11 and a half in the last 24 hours, and I think it's the right side here. When you look at the statistics of what Air Force is doing, we all know the military schools are going to run. This team is demolishing teams up front in the trenches on both sides of the line of scrimmage. They're fantastic against the run. They cover the pass extremely well, and they're the top rushing team in football. Listen, I'm a Craig Bowl fan, and it goes back to his assistant days in Lincoln. Then, of course, he heads up to North Dakota State, builds that program. Now he's been in Laramie for a few years. But if you look at what this team has done and who they've beaten, which they have played well, and they beat Boise, and they almost, and they beat Texas Tech to start the season. But I think they're in trouble here. I don't think they're going to be able to run or stop the run, and laid it there with the Falcons.
Wow. Oh.
Wyoming.
That's not what I wanted to hear. I was like, Wyoming. Well, Wyoming was, they've covered a few times because of those two
They beat the dog out of Fresno State last week.
And I think I said Boise, but it was Fresno.
Yeah, Fresno State. Yeah.
Upset.
Yeah.
And I like this program. I really do. And like I said, I'm a Craig Bull fan. I mean, listen, he's a fantastic coach, and look what he did getting Josh Allen ready. So I do like him, but I just think they're in a terrible spot going up against a team that is by far the best of the Mountain West when it comes to playing in the trenches.
So real quick, with the gaffe that was at Miami last week with Mario Cristobal, and then that game last night with the late touchdown pass to Hail Mary by Houston, did that affect, especially last week with the gaffe at Miami? How much did that affect the books?
Oh my gosh, the books were happy. I know a lot of folks who were on the Miami Hurricanes and used them in different, styles and money line plays and things like that, but laying the points. And of course, it was a close game anyway. But as far as the overall effect of the books, because of the line of where it was, they weren't affected too much as far as the point spreads were. But as far as money line was, they got beat up a little bit. But I thought I'd be listening to little Britney Spears. Oops, I did it again with Mario Cristobal because he did that at Oregon.
Yes, he did
a few years ago.
Yeah, we brought that up.
Boneheaded.
Yeah, we brought that up sooner or later. And then for him not to actually apologize until Monday in his horrible presser after the game on Saturday night was inexcusable. So how much do you feel that's going to affect the Miami North Carolina game at all, or does it affect it at all in this game this weekend?
It made me pass. I had already earmarked because I set my lines a week in advance. So before last week's games were played, I had already decided if Miami got past Tech last week, I was going to back them against North Carolina. And they still might overcome what happened and win. I don't like the spot now, especially when you look at your head coach and he's, not going to take the blame. Sean Payton made a couple of bad calls this past weekend, and then and then last night. And what does he do immediately after the game? He takes responsibility.
Yes.
I don't know if you saw that post-game presser last night.
Yeah.
He goes, it was a bad move to me.
Yep.
Well, I would trust Miami in this spot a little bit more if Cristobal would have come out and said, this one's on me, guys.
Scott, have a great weekend. Good luck. Thank you.
Good luck, guys. Take care.
That's Scott Spreitzer joining us. Scott wins on Twitter, part of DocSports.com, been with us for over 15 years. Appreciate him taking some time. Well, our Arena Sports Grill, tune in and turn it up. Games of the weekend are next, both college and pro, as we're out here at Wright Toyota. This is Rock TV, Fox Sports 910.
Check this out.
This is The Herd.
You're excited. I'm excited.